Okay, Ricky, this is a film that has a star-studded voice cast. It grossed $25 million dollars in its opening weekend. Number two at the box office, I believe, had a $75 million budget. What do you think about the Transformers return here? Right? Lackluster in the box office front, but what did you think of the animation and the approach that they took?
Yeah, so for me, looking at this movie, heading into it, number one, I'm not a big Transformers guy.
Same.
I dabbled in the show, animated show when I was a kid, but always was like the Batman animated series. I was always the superhero mindset, Spider-Man and whatnot. But Transformers was secondary, similar to like Ninja Turtles, which came out last year, right? That was like never a big Ninja Turtles guy, but I went into that movie excited. I liked the movie a lot, and I would say it's the same thing here. I think I underestimated this movie. I think from a tomato predictor standpoint, we both agreed that it would do well, but maybe we wouldn't love it. I'll speak for myself. I really did like this movie. I thought it worked very well as a good underdog story, and as a good group movie up and coming for kids mainly. But even as an adult, I appreciated it. And even walking into the theater, again, we went to a fan event, so it was a little different. But a lot of merch was shown there. We got ourselves a poster. I got Optimus Prime. There's my poster. We got
Beautiful.
a comic book, like legit comic book. I'm showing it on the screen for the YouTube. It's like actually a comic book with, I would say, way too many words, especially for how kid friendly this movie is. Comic book, a keychain. This is Megatron, not a big deal. But I didn't like. There's a lot of fan lore, around the Transformers still, even though not a lot of anime. Like obviously the movies, we could talk what we want live action, but animated hasn't really been a lot of animated stuff with Transformers in a while. I think I liked it.
I think the animation was such a good idea. The live action became more about the stars than the actual Transformers. It was more about Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox or Mark Wahlberg, right? And it wasn't really about Optimus Prime and Megatron and Bumblebee and the squad. They were just part of the story and not the story. Here, it was smart to go back and just say, this is the origin of these two characters, the two most significant characters in the lore. You talk about there is an extreme fandom for Transformers. I'm not sure if like younger kids today are watching Transformers as much, but their parents probably watch Transformers. Like obviously you think about like the movie and the show in the 80s and 90s. Like I grew up watching the Transformers show. It wasn't my favorite show because you talked about it. We were more superhero guys, but there's no denying the impact that Transformers had. And being able to do this in animation, it was a way to get away from the staleness and the subpar level of execution of the live action films. This was a good like switch up for me. I'm a little disappointed by the box office here, Ricky Flex. I did want to. Oh, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
Well, yeah, the box office. It seems interesting because it went under, did not hit 30 million of the tracking, went 25 domestic. Disappointing, I would say.
I think it's a bad sign for a movie that teases a sequel.
And especially with last year's, I mentioned it, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem only making 28 million opening weekend. That teases a sequel. I think that's not, again, these back-to-back years, animated movies, IP, trying to get the kids. You see all these animated movies doing that are driven towards kids. They're being marketed towards kids, doing extremely well, similar to a Inside Out 2 or Despicable Me. I just think it kind of relies more on the studio than the IP now for these animated projects. I think that's kind of like the takeaway for this. And even if you go back to 2018's Bumblebee, the last Transformers movie, I would know Rise of the Beasts. I forgot about that, but whatever. Bumblebee, that only made 22 million opening weekend, and that had John Cena, that had Haley Steinfeld, it had Bumblebee. So it's just like, I don't know. Is there something wrong with Transformers, or is there something wrong with animated movies, non-Disney basically, or non-Universal? I don't know.
Maybe it's just a strong core of fans that speak on behalf of all Transformers fans. That's a weird pattern that they just don't do well at the box office when like you had the first three movies do very well and they just aren't good movies. But this movie, Ricky Flex, what I did want to talk about is that from the trailer, you knew this was going to be overly comedic, right? At least the first half of the movie. What I was surprised at is the amount of drama and the heavy stakes at the end of this movie. And at times, I kind of thought that was a bad thing, where the setup of the movie was just like it was a laugh a second, and I felt like I was watching a spin-off of like the Lego movie and like the 3D animation and all the laughs that ensue. But then the performances really stick out in the second half to me with Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime. I wasn't sold the first half, but him becoming what is Optimus Prime, the leader of Cybertron and the leader of all these Transformers and these people that were under an oppressive form of government, I was like, damn, like this is really hitting. And then like the last like hit the resurrection of Optimus Prime. We're gonna go spoilers here. The resurrection of Optimus Prime in the final act, the one-on-one with Megatron. I was like, God damn, they're doing the thing right now. This is actually fire. You know, I just thought the second half especially worked for this movie.
I could not agree more. I think this is exactly the take you got to have. So April 18th this year, this trailer came out and we reviewed it. Right? And we did thermometer predictors and everything. We'll get to that at the end. But we were both so disappointed with this trailer. And I'll speak for myself. I wanted like a Megatron versus Optimus Prime dark origin story, right? And we see this trailer, and it's all comedy, clearly for kids, and it basically was the first half of this movie, right? And it's fine. And again, it was fine, but it's just not for us. It just wasn't. And if I like had to review the movie, like if it was just the first hour of like, oh, these underdogs, they are nobodies. They're these ground drillers or whatever you want to call them. Miners, thank you, in this world, and they're adventuring and becoming friends, right? It's like, okay, but no, we get into why they kind of divert. We get into like up and coming Optimus Prime, literally rags to riches, not like riches, but like leader of this Cybertron, of this community, this world. It is really good in the second half, and I was bought in.
It sucks because I think the first half kind of hurts the movie because you have to really believe that like Megatron is making this evil turn, that he really does have like some disdain for Optimus Prime, and he's kind of tired of carrying him and saving him, as he says before he makes that final turn and his eyes turn red. Like he's like literally, I kept getting Anakin Skywalker vibes when I was watching this movie. Like I was like Brian Tyree Henry's Megatron. Like this is kind of Star Wars-esque, right? Obviously a little more comedic, but I think it hurt his turn a little bit because of all the laughs that were coming in the first half of the movie, right? But by the end, I still think with a lot of heavy lifting from Chris Hemsworth, actually, who's low-key having a great 2024, I think it overall worked out. And I don't think like Chris Hemsworth was the only great performance here. Brian Tyree Henry did fine, I thought, but I had Lawrence Fishburne here. Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion, the one of the prime transformers from the start of the Cybertron in this world. He has like him passing on the core of the other prime Transformers members. Very dramatic scene. That's kind of where the movie started to shift when they went from Cybertron. They went from what's the city they're living in? You know?
Well, Cybertron's the world, right?
Yeah. So like whatever city they're in, when they finally go to the surface and they reveal, right, and it's revealed like what happened with these characters' names, dude, are so hard to remember. With Sentinel Prime, like basically making a deal with these aliens to go against like the Prime Transformers. But Alpha Trion with Lawrence Fishburne, I thought he knocked it out of the park too. I thought he was my second favorite performance of the movie. I do want to say John Hamm though. You know what I kept thinking? He plays Sentinel Prime, which is like the villain of the movie before like the very end of the third act where you have Megatron like do his thing. He sounded like Will Ferrell in the Lego movie.
You did get those Will Ferrell vibes.
I didn't like it. I get it. Like he's supposed to be like welcoming and he's supposed to be the leader of this world. He's a hero to all. He's like feels like there's a parade behind him every time he walks everywhere. But the over comedic qualities of the movie, like don't make me take that character seriously. I know it's for kids and stuff, so I understand. But
Yes.
like I didn't like his performance as much.
That's it. I think exactly what you said there with John Hamm. But I will push back a little bit on Chris Hemsworth. I didn't love it. I didn't love his voice in this. Like, I don't know. It was like clearly, I don't know. For me, it was like he's trying to be so American or something. It was like weird. I just do your own voice. It doesn't matter. It's a kids movie. You could be Australian, like you have American, like, whatever.
No, you can't
I
be Australian.
I just
Megatron.
wanted to hear like I don't
Oh,
know,
excuse
like
me,
I didn't love his voice in this. I just didn't. I had the same vibes from the trailer. And I think Bradley Tyler Henry for me, I was nervous about him from the trailer and the turn and how he was going to do it. And I thought it was effective. I thought it was fine. I think some of the plot, like the ways they kind of used him to turn, I thought maybe some things were more ineffective than others. But from a voice performance perspective, I did like it. And then finally, Lawrence Fishburne, I think, was the best voice performer in this.
He was great.
You already went over that, so I won't repeat it. But for all the same reasons, I think he was the best.
But I literally sensed a shift in the Chris Hemsworth performance, which is what I liked. You know, he always
I
had
get
like
that.
the best intentions in mind for other characters in the movie, put themselves before himself. And he was almost an immature type of voice, you know, and then he really came into his own right in the second half of this movie. I'm like, oh my god, there it is. That is the Optimus Prime voice. He literally grew into like the physical character, and then the voice grew as well. Keegan Michael Key, we should talk about. Bumblebee, fan favorite character, or should I call him Badassatron? Laugh a second. Definitely he was laugh a second type. I would say his jokes were hitting at like 50% for me overall. And this is what you're going to get with Keegan Michael Key with a Bumblebee type of character, like the guy who's not Optimus Prime and he's not Megatron. So he has to like get his licks in when he can. And I thought he was good. I feel like kids will love the Bumblebee character that you get in this movie. But if you're a parent or you're like people like us watching the movie, you're like, maybe it's overload. They kind of wane back in the second half of the movie, which I also think made the second half that much
Yes.
better, to be honest. Like, I think that might have been intentional too. So I thought he was good, but in doses.
The fact that they use like Badassatron and in a kids movie, I thought was interesting. They said it, I think, 8 times maybe. It was around 8 times. The first 7 times, I didn't laugh a single time, and then the 8th time when he mentions it at the end, I did break out in laughter. It
Yeah,
got me at the end.
because that was such an emotional thing. It was like you were like locked into the movie, and when he did it again, the callback, where you're like, yeah, that was
And it
great.
was so long since he had an important speaking moment. You know, he had his moments with the swords I thought were good, but the actual comedic beats were like totally different in the second half, like as you mentioned. So it was much funnier because we got less of those beats. They were more impactful.
I guess as we head towards the back half of this review, what do you think about the writing of relationship? You sounded a little bit critical of it previous in this review. We're talking about Megatron and Optimus Prime. I guess the question is like, they seem like best friends. I think that was built well. They even did a flashback in the third act, right when Optimus Prime is having his resurrection and he has to take on Megatron. But do you think? I guess what I'm asking you, do you the Megatron turning away from Optimus Prime? Do you think that was well written?
I have my questions around that. I think you're right. The relationship, well written, and also like him being a leader, like Megatron being a leader in the back half to the final act in this movie,
Like different
also was good.
philosophy, dude. We're seeing it happen. It felt
Yeah,
like Revenge of the Sith, where you're like just like I know it's gonna happen, but it's still entertaining the shit out of me.
yeah, because like yes, Optimus Prime is your main character, is the leader that we go to with Transformers, but like here we get a little backstory on Megatron and leading the Decepticons. Like it was interesting, but I think the middle part where like it's really right when he gets the core, right? He gets whatever, yeah, the core, and he immediately goes bad, like right when he gets power. It's
Yeah.
like what? And yes, they tried to like build it up, but through like the same comment saying, like Sentinel Prime needs to pay. It's like, dude, he did this to everybody. You're at the same level as all these other miners. Like, why is it you that are more that's angrier than everyone else? Like for me, like
Oh,
there
I
need to be
agree.
something more personal around that turn. Like Anakin, if we're gonna do Star Wars, let's just go full in here. If we're gonna go Anakin, it's like he's trying to save his kid. The relationship with Padme, trying to get under Jedi Council. There's a lot of like things behind that character and his anger being built up to meaningful things. Where it's for Megatron, it's just like, dude, you were just done dirty like everyone else. Like, why are you getting like I made those for me? I don't think that was as effective.
And someone's also manipulating Anakin, like
Yes.
throughout the entire thing. Like, but I agree. I think you nailed it. The it's just a difference of philosophy between Optimus Prime and Megatron, and I think you needed to have a deeper rooted, like my family was done wrong or something like that. Like they took everyone's life away from them. They took the core, right, the power that they have to transform away from all these people, so they couldn't rise up against this government. Like they are looking for this. It literally is like politics. Like it's so weird to say that for this movie,
We're
but it's
reviewing
like
this kid's movie. We're
I,
going.
like it's like these different like it's like political parties or factions that are just like, hey, like we overthrow this government, how do we want to lead us in the future? And you have one group, right, more moral based maybe, and with a Optimus Prime, and then the other side you have Megatron, right, who wants to kind of rule with an iron fist and keep order but also restore the core to everybody. So it's like they're two different philosophies, but you need a harsher reason for him to have such animosity towards Sentinel Prime. Because yeah, I agree. They're doing the same thing. They're suffering the same hardships.
Yeah, and I did like at the end, the when he accidentally kills Optimus, and he was like, he's holding him, and he goes, "I'm not letting you, like, I'm not carrying you anymore," or I forget the exact line.
I'm done saving you.
Yeah, I was in the beat dropped, the music dropped, and it's him falling, and it's him like turning gray. It's like, damn, this is actually hitting hard right now.
Yeah.
You could feel the theater like shift. Like you could feel it shift the audience. Like it was really good. I thought that was super effective. So yes, the writing of the relationship really good, but I think just him doing the turn, I thought could have been done way better.
And to bring it back, that line, I'm done saving you. That was like, uh, don't make me kill you. Like from
Yeah.
episode 3. And then Obi-Wan saying, I will do what I must. You know, I just, dude, I can't be the only one that kept thinking of Revenge of the Sith while I was
The red
watching.
eyes. The red
It
eyes, you
felt,
got me.
it felt like this has some Star Wars roots to it, Ricky Flex. As we get to the end here, animation, I thought it looked pretty good. It's like that 3D rather than 2D form. Um, I think that's the wave now for most like animated movies. Yeah, I would say so, right? Like three-dimensional type of thing like we saw in Lego movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
Thought it looked good. I thought the aliens looked good that were on the surface of Cybertron.
I thought God, I actually did think of Star Wars one time throughout this, and it was the race scene.
Yeah, yeah, Phantom
I,
Menace.
yes, I that was the one time I did think of Star Wars in this. But the reason I bring that
I,
up,
I thought of well, Ready Player One a little
oh,
bit
I
on
was
this
gonna
one.
say the second thing I thought of was Tron.
That too.
But the real reason I bring it up is because that animation could have gone terribly.
Yeah,
But I think they got through that scene clean slate. And for me, I was like, all right, this animation is legit. Like this movie has some legs, and that because that was the first act, right? That was like the end of the first act. So I was like, all right, this movie could have some legs. So for me, like the animation was good. The voice performance overall, I would say good. Good. I have my qualms with a couple things, but and then also just the story itself, classic underdog story on the and like I think the relationship, everything I thought was good as well. There's some things that would change. Overall, good.
there was something else I wanted to ask you, Ricky Flex. The post credit for this movie, was it at the end, or was that mid credit?
No, end.
Okay, so I have an issue with this because it was the most obvious post credit scene of all time. Like you know what's coming. How do you not put that mid credit? Like you don't want to make people wait in the theater for an extra 15 minutes for Megatron to just be on the surface saying and garnering the support of the Decepticons.
That's
Like
exactly what they want. Why they want you to do is so you see every single name that comes through.
but to me it's like you maybe do something with Bumblebee at the very end, right? But I kind of thought it's like everyone knows this is the post credit scene. You know,
I
everyone
I
knows.
I, I do agree with your sentiment, but I understand for them it's like you gotta sit through all this. But for me, it's like you just don't give us something that's obvious, but give us something that we'll be interested in. Maybe maybe like God, who are the freaking villains? Not the Decepticons, like people on the surface that are like taking the core from
Who are taking the
Cybertron.
core.
Oh,
I don't know their name. Another issue I have with this movie, by the way, is them explaining everything to me, and I just retain nothing. I just
But like,
I got like
yeah,
Sentinel Prime, or is it the Prime Transformers? Or they're on Cybertron, but the city is not Cybertron. And they do the archival footage at the beginning, try to explain everything to you and the origins of this world, and then you have to meet the aliens and see what they're all about. They were throwing a lot of shit at you, but all you got to know is that these people. I mean, Sentinel Prime's the bad guy. Remove the Transformers, remove their cores and everything, and then we go from there. They
right.
over-explained a lot.
Yeah, and I guess for me, it's like it's actually the first thought that came through my head. Once Optimus Prime won, he's like the new leader. He did his whole speech. First thing I said was to myself was, "Oh, they're screwed," because they're losing a bunch of soldiers. They're not. They're definitely no longer gonna drill for the aliens. The aliens are gonna kill them. How are they gonna build up? You know what I'm saying? They
He
only
has
had
he has the thing though, right? The core, he has the key.
right, but is that gonna hold everything together? The aliens took over from them when they did have the core.
Well, there's only 6 of them,
Yeah, I
right?
don't know. For me, I think there's a lot of question marks. I think going back to the post credit, it's maybe give us something to give us hope of these aliens are going away or there's a war coming. Instead, you gave us exactly what we thought we were gonna get, and we waited through all those credits.
And I think also the aliens, they're gonna have to deal with Megatron on the
Right.
surface. So it's Cybertron won't be as susceptible, I don't think, unless they demand more mining to be done. But whatever, I'm getting too much into it.
Yeah.
Scores. What do you give Transformers One?
76.
78 for me.
And
78.
to my honor predictor, coming back to it. So this said Rotten Tomatoes 89, you said?
Rotten Tomatoes. This is at. Sorry, I gotta get my scroller here. Mouse. 89.
Okay. I had an 85. You had an 83.
You beat me again. God damn it.
Close though.